Hello and welcome to the launch event of the Focus Everest Endeavour. We are scaling the stairs in COVID-secure conditions to raise money for the Community Action Nepal, supporting the poorest mountain people of Nepal. So all of you here this evening are either supporting or taking part in climbing upstairs to raise money for this great charity. For those of you who don't know, I personally have a long and established history climbing mountains, summiting Kilimanjaro only a few years ago. And the man to my left here has something of an established CV of mountaineering, adventuring, among other things. He's circumnavigated the UK on a jet ski, flown from London to Timbuktu in a flying car, paddleboarded around Easter Island, and even traversed the Solent in a bath. But the real story is around things like the Adventurers Grand Slam, I think it's called something slightly different, but the 7 summits on the 7 continents, tallest mountains on the 7 continents, and the North and South Pole. So he's got far more experience to be able to tell you what it's like up there on the heights of Everest. I'm sure we'll find out for ourselves between the 2nd and 9th of October when we take on this challenge. And our aim is to raise £10,000 for Community Action Nepal. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Neil Laughton.
Thank you very much, Chris. Hello everybody, thank you very much for inviting me here. Hello all of you at home and all of you who are going to be taking part in this challenge to climb Everest. Who'd have thought that you could climb Everest here in sunny Shoreham? Well, it's going to happen next week, and I'm very grateful to all of you who are participating from the Great Focus Group Limited, or PLC. I'm not sure whether you're PLC yet, but you soon will be, I'm sure. So the Everest 2020 Challenge is actually an idea from the charity themselves, the Community Action Nepal. And it's a fabulous charity started by a very well-known mountaineer called Doug Scott. And his premise was to give back to some of the poorest people on the planet, those of the mountain people of Nepal. And he's been doing it for an awful long time. And there's so much need, and particularly you may well have heard of the terrible earthquake that struck 2015 in April that killed nearly 9,000 people in the region, in their country, and injured something like 22,000. And so it may be 5 or 6 years ago, but trust me, the country and some of the people, particularly the remote mountain villages, they're still suffering from the consequences of that earthquake. So literally every penny, every pound, every £1,000, and hopefully the £10,000 that we can raise for this challenge is going to some really desperately poor people who will genuinely really appreciate and need that financial support. So why Everest? Well, you know, she's a tough taskmasteress. Everest gets in your blood, and for me it wasn't an outright requirement to climb it. There was no need. I'm a businessman, a bit of an adventurer, but I had no real reason to go off and climb Everest. But I was involved. I was doing some trekking in South America, and I accidentally climbed a 7,000 meter peak mountain. I say accidentally. I was only supposed to trek to base camp, but a couple of people got ill. I managed to acquire some gear, just like Chris, put it on, and found that I was quite good at high altitude. Out of the original 8 people in that team, only 2 summited, and 1 was me and the team leader. So I then read a book about the 7 summits, the highest mountain on each of the 7 continents. And I fell in love with the concept of, whilst working hard in London, to actually have once a year a little challenge, just like Chris on Kilimanjaro, to go and climb every year one of the highest peaks in the world, the 7 summits, the highest mountain on each continent. And then we managed to add a thing called the Explorers Grand Slam, which is climbing the 7 summits plus skiing to the North and South Poles, which was a great challenge for somebody working in an office in London, of course, and it actually took me 21 years to achieve that objective, and raising money for some good charities. Climbing Everest is tough. Doesn't matter, you know, when and how you do it. It's a tough mission, and I'm pretty sure that those of you who are doing 2,500 feet or meters next week on the focus group stairs will start to appreciate the toughness of the challenge, because it's relentless. The altitude kicks in. You're struggling for breath. You know, you're physically deteriorating as you go up the mountain. And when I attempted to climb it first back in the day, 3 years ago, the statistics said for every 6 people that summited the mountain, 1 would die. 1 in 6, that was the stats. And you had to sort of psychologically prepare yourself and not think about, you know, the fact that of the 10 people in that tent, in the base camp, you know, at least 1 or 2 might die. Putting that aside, my first attempt was back in 1996. Those who've read Into Thin Air or seen the various movies will know that 1996 wasn't a great year for climbing the mountain. And in fact, as it transpired, I had to survive 2 days and 2 nights above the death zone, or in the death zone at 8,000 meter plus, whilst trying to survive the worst storm in 100 years, according to the Tibetan government. It was pretty grim. I haven't got time to tell you all the details, but suffice to say, 8 people lost their lives in a very short space of time, and many more were badly injured by frostbite. It was not a great year. But like all good projects, a little bit of determination and a refocusing, no pun intended. 2 years later, I put another team on the mountain, 1998, and this time the weather gods were on our side. Nothing terribly bad went wrong, except for 19th of May, I went for a summit bid with my young friend Mick Crossway, and we were at the south summit, and unfortunately he collapsed in the snow, literally a couple of 100 meters from the main summit, and I had to turn around and pretty much carry him down the mountain. He slipped and fell 100 meters, very nearly died, thankfully survived. And then a week later, I back up the mountain with a new summit partner, and thankfully, after my 3rd attempt, we summited the mountain. And incidentally, those of you who will get to the end of your challenge, the focus group challenge, Everest climbing feat next week, will get to that infamous picture with you with the ice axe that I took to the summit of Everest aloft, and we'll be able to take a nice photograph of you. My summit partner that day, 1998, was a very young 23-year-old Bear Grylls, who's apparently gone on to do some quite good stuff. 2004, I went back to the mountain with a disabled friend of mine, Glenn Shaw, who worked in Barclays, and his lifelong dream was to get to see Everest. He was never going to climb it in his wheelchair, but had a terrible fall trying to do it a few years before, and desperately wanted to succeed. And in 2004, I put a team together and we took him to Everest Base Camp. He saw his mountain, and then just as a cheeky side aim, we managed to climb and drag him and carry him up a subsidiary peak at 20,000 feet, which beat the previous world record for somebody in a wheelchair on Kilimanjaro. So that was nice for Glenn. 2007, I went back to the mountain with Bear Grylls, a few years older this time, and a lovely man called Giles Cardozo, a very clever engineer. And we set a new world record for the highest paramotor, or motorized parachute ascent and flight. And that was a mission that was captured on a documentary by Channel 4 called Mission Everest. And then finally there was a kind of a mission in my mind to secure the highest black tie dinner party world record. Kind of one of those things you dream up in your bath or the shower one day and think, you know, what else can I do in my life? Okay, we need to set for Britain the greatest and the highest black tie dinner party record. I put a team together 2015, which included, incidentally, 2 Michelin star chef called Sat Baines, one of Britain's most talented chefs, and he came along with us. Unfortunately, he wasn't brilliant at altitude and was carted off the mountain with an oxygen mask strapped to his face. Shortly after that, as we were ascending with our black tie outfits at about 21,000 feet, that earthquake that I talked to you earlier about struck. At about 11:30 in the morning, we were on a glacial moraine going up to sort of Camp 2, and it was like being on a travelator in Heathrow Airport, which went every which way. It was 35 seconds of mayhem, and we didn't really know until it was over what had actually happened. But in that short space of time, all those, terrible results of that earthquake, many thousands of people very sadly lost their lives. And it was great that we could eventually, in 2018, succeeded. I went back 3 years later with another team, and we secured that black tie Guinness World Record. And not only that, raised about £75,000 for Community Action Nepal. And I'm hoping with your efforts we can start to raise to that £100,000 target that I'm aiming for, which will make a real difference to the poorest, some of the poorest people on the planet, the mountain people of Nepal. The last thing I will say, apart from very best of luck next week, and I shall be joining you as well, is that if anybody is inspired about a few of my stories on Everest, it's a fantastic, life-changing place to go and visit. There is a chance, if you're a keen cyclist, in 2021, I'm putting a team together looking for volunteers. Come and join me to help set a world record for the highest bicycle ride in the world. So there we are. Thank you again for your time. Thank you again for getting stuck into the Everest 2020 Challenge focus group. Very best of luck. And lastly, I will say, to aid you, I've asked my friend Bear Grylls to sign 3 of these special edition unique photographs of myself and him on the summit of Everest. And if you're one of the top 3 focus group fundraiser, you will get one of these. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Neil. Great to hear your story. Thank you to everyone who came this evening to celebrate the launch of this great event. We look forward to seeing you here and around our sites across the UK on the 2nd of October. And wish you all the best of luck. Good luck with the training. It's a lot of steps, all right? So don't just assume you can rock up and it'll be easy. So have a great time. Hope it goes well. Raise lots of money. If you're not doing it, please spread the word and support this fantastic challenge. So thanks very much. Good night.